Hi, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be making some cinnamon rolls. So this will be interesting to see how this turns out. I made them a couple of times, but I don't make them very often and I've been really craving some. It always reminds me of being up north at my aunt and uncle's resort, and so I figured I'd wear a sweatshirt from there, and I will be making these from scratch. My aunt gets them frozen and then she'll take them out the night before and then she'll bake them the day of. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bake about half of them today and then I'm gonna freeze half of them so that I can have them some other time as well. So let's begin. So first what we're gonna do is I have 3/4 a cup of warm milk. It needs to be between 105 and 115. I'm gonna pour that in. Then I'm gonna add in 3 tablespoons of sugar. This is kind of awkward. I'm gonna actually remove this hook now while this is doing its thing. You could also do this in a separate bowl, but I figured why get an extra bowl dirty? I already have a bunch of little ones. I'm gonna get that to dissolve. Okay, and then once the sugar fully gets dissolved, I'm gonna add in my yeast. This is 2 1/4 teaspoon of yeast, or 1 package of the active yeast. I'm gonna throw that in and mix that up too. Make sure it's all in that milk and sugar mixture. Yep, I can already smell the yeast, but once that gets in, we're gonna just let it do its thing for about 4 minutes. So I will come back once it is all foamy. Okay, so this is what it's looking like when it first gets in there. Okay, it has really started to foam up, so we are ready to move on. Okay, the yeast has been doing its thing I gave it a little bit longer. It didn't look that foamy at 4 minutes, so I gave it 6 minutes, and now it is looking perfect. So it is time to move on to our next step. I'm gonna put on the dough hook, and we're gonna add 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1 egg, 2 tablespoons of butter that have been softened. And right now we're only gonna add half the flour, and then once it starts to actually come together, we're gonna add the rest of it. So this is 3 cups, so I'm gonna add about 1.5 cups now. Got a little over, but that's okay. And then we're gonna get this going on medium speed until it starts to actually clump together. I am gonna scrape down the sides a little bit because a lot of the flour is sticking to the sides. Okay, it is time to add the rest of my flour. And if your dough is still really sticky after the 3 cups have been completely added in and it starts to make a ball, you can add more flour in about a tablespoon at a time until it reaches the right consistency. Okay, that is looking much better. So right now, what I'm gonna do is take it off of the dough hook. And then I'm going to actually take it out of this bowl for a second, put some oil in the bottom of this, that all around, and then we're gonna plop this back in there. Get it all over it so it doesn't stick later on. Okay, and then we're gonna cover this with a towel for an hour and it should double in size. You want it somewhere where it is a little warm, and I had been baking earlier today, so it is still slightly warm over here. Not hot by any means, but just a little warmth helps a lot with the rising of it. So I'll see you in about an hour. Okay, our dough is almost done rising, so it is time to make our cinnamon sugar mixture that's gonna go in the middle of our cinnamon rolls. So first, you're gonna need 4 tablespoons of butter, or a half a stick, and it needs to be quite soft because you need to be able to really mix it in with the sugar well. And then I'm going to do a half a cup of white sugar. If you have brown sugar, I just ran out of mine the other day and I haven't gone to the store yet to pick some new ones up. But if you have brown sugar, do 1/4 cup of brown sugar and 1/4 cup of just regular sugar. I'm gonna have to do a half a cup of sugar just because I don't have any of the brown sugar and I don't have any molasses either. So I'm gonna add that in. And then 2 tablespoons of cinnamon. It's a cinnamon roll, so you definitely want a cinnamony. Okay, and then you're just gonna mix that all together so it kind of makes a paste that we're gonna spread in our dough once we roll it out. Kind of almost feel like I'm cutting it in. I'm just going down to get it all incorporated. Okay, that is looking awesome. So I am going to get my surface ready to roll out our dough. So I'm gonna add a tiny, tiny bit of flour. I don't want that much flour, but I also don't want it sticking to my surface. I really cleaned this off well, so it is nice and clean, and my hands are nice and clean too. Spread that out. And we're gonna make this into a rectangle shape. So we're gonna grab our dough that has been rising. Oh yeah, it definitely doubled in size. Here is it after rising for an hour. I can definitely smell the yeast too. So we're gonna take this out like so. And we're gonna really want to spread it out into a rectangle shape. And we want it to be pretty even and not have like thicker spots and thinner spots. Kind of feel like I'm rolling out pizza or something. Oh, it's getting kind of thin over there. It's definitely thicker on the outer side, so I'm like trying to pat it in. Okay, so that I think is looking pretty good. It's not completely perfect, like there's some rounded edges, but it should work fine. So right now, I'm gonna spread our cinnamon mixture all over it and really spread it out. It's not wanting to spread very well. I feel like I should have had maybe more butter on it. It's like the sugar doesn't want to spread out as much or as nicely. Like it clumps up in some spots and then doesn't want to go into others. But we'll get there. It's just going to take a little bit of time. Okay, I finally got it fairly spread out. That was a lot harder than I was expecting, so next time I think I'll add more butter to see if that helps. But I got it done, so now it is time to start rolling. So we're gonna start on this end. We wanna make it fairly tight. You don't want it to unroll too much. Okay, and then kind of pinch to kind of seal everything together, like so. And we have our nice log of cinnamon roll. So I have this string that I'm gonna place halfway through it. If this doesn't work, I'll just get a knife out and cut it, but this should be able to cut into 12 pieces. So I wanna get it, I feel like I'm flossing, about halfway. Then we're gonna take our string up and cross it. Oh, that worked out really nice. Awesome. And then we're gonna do it in half again. And then for these halves, we're gonna do them in 2/3. Third of the way, we're gonna take it up, cross, and do the same thing here. Perfect. And look at this beautiful cinnamon swirl. Oh, this is looking wonderful. So I'm just gonna go through and do that with the rest of them as well. Try to get them all roughly the same size so they'll all cook at the same rate. Okay, so now that I got all these cut, I'm going to put about half of them in this pan to cook them up, and the other half I'm gonna freeze so that whenever I have guests over, I can take some out the night before and have fresh cinnamon rolls when they wake up. So I'm gonna doing some of the end pieces right now just because I think I'll just do 4 for now. I think that's a good number, and then I'll have 8 that I can freeze for later. So here are my 4. Now this needs to come over here, and we're gonna put the towel over it again, and we're gonna let that rise for a little bit and have a second rise, whereas these I'm going to freeze right away, and so they'll rise when I take them out of the freezer. So I have my bag, and I'm going to set them in here, and I'm gonna try to keep them so they're not touching each other because I don't want them to freeze together. And then I have this one little hack that I used for my muffins for freezing them, and it worked really well. So I'm gonna do that again. I first saw it when I was watching a TikTok, and it worked so well to like vacuum seal these together so it can keep its freshness for the longest time. Okay, and then we're gonna seal it off. for the most part. And then I need to grab my trusty reusable straw. I'm gonna put that in the very end. Make sure it's all completely zipped off except for that little hole where the straw is. Suck in. And there you go. Some Ziploc cinnamon rolls that I can take out the night before and have fresh cinnamon rolls in the morning. So I'm gonna put these in the freezer. Okay, and in the meantime, I'm gonna get my oven preheating to 350 degrees. And by the time that is done heating up, it will be roughly the time that the second rise is done on my cinnamon rolls. It will take about 20 to 30 minutes for the second rise, and I will see then. Okay, so this is what they're looking like right now. Okay, they have expanded, so it is time for them to go in the oven. This one definitely expanded the most, so we'll see how they bake. But they need to go in for 20 to 22 minutes, and I'm gonna come back and check on them. Just got out of the oven and it smells so good. It smells very cinnamony. Okay, the cinnamon rolls just got out of the oven, so while they are cooling down a little bit, I'm going to make the frosting for on top. So for this frosting, I'm gonna make it actually a cream cheese. I usually don't use cream cheese. I usually just do milk and powdered sugar, but I had some leftover cream cheese from another recipe I did, and so I am going to be using up the rest of that. So I have cream cheese. I'm gonna take a tiny bit of butter too. We're gonna kind of just smash that together. This is all room temperature, so it's easier to move around. And then I'm gonna put in some powdered sugar. 2 ounces of cream cheese and a tablespoon of butter. And so far I probably put in about a cup of powdered sugar. I'm gonna kind of just do it to taste. Okay, and to add a little more liquid to this, I'm gonna add some milk. And I have a little bit of almond extract that I'm gonna do. I just need a splash of this. We're gonna get that mixed in too, so make it a little bit easier to spread and everything. I wish I had a electric stand mixer. I really need to get one of those. I didn't want to get my stand mixer dirty again just for this, so doing it by hand. Oh yeah, that's coming out to be a nice texture. Just go until it's nice and smooth. Perfect, it's not too sweet, so that is ready to go. Now it is time to spread it on our cinnamon rolls. This is looking so good. Okay, they've had a little time to cool, but they're still quite warm, so I'm very excited to give these a try. They look delicious. Oh, look at that. Okay, let's break it apart. How do you eat your cinnamon rolls? I always have to unroll them when I'm trying them out. Okay. It's really good. The outside ring is quite crispy, but the center is always my favorite part. I love a warm, gooey center. The frosting on this is delicious. I love this cream cheese frosting. It gives it more of a zing, gives it a little extra boost to the flavor. It is so good. The cinnamon in it is also delicious. I got the perfect amount. I wasn't too sure about, it was a little hard to roll out, but it really did distribute well as I'm looking in here. So I'm very happy with how that turned out. And the dough itself tastes really good too. I'm very happy with this. This is a very messy. That was a great bite too. Some of the cinnamon sugar mixture I had in this melted out and got onto the pan and got nice and crispy and caramelized on the bottom. So good. It's nice having all the different textures between the crispy, not crispy, it's not like super crunchy, but it definitely has a harder outside and then the caramelized bits on the bottom and then the gooey center in the middle. It is so good. I love all the different textures in this that it has going on. So good. It's a very sweet breakfast if you're having it for breakfast, but it's fun to have every once in a while. But right now I'm having this at 4 in the afternoon, so it makes a great afternoon dessert as well. Plus, this is the time that we would usually have our snack time up north and stuff. My grandma would always call it coffee time, and around like 3 or 4, we'd have a dessert that she made, so perfect timing. So if you like this kind of content, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Here's some of the center bits. Phenomenal.